UFC Vegas MAYCEE Barber versus ERIN Blanchfield takes place this weekend. I'll be giving my full card predictions from the early prelims all the way up to the main event. Starting off with Rayani Dos Santos taking on Alice Ardelene. Bottom of the barrel, women's MMA to start off the women's Apex. Nothing better, eh? Rayani Dos Santos is 4 years younger, being 29. She's 14-8 overall and 0-2 in the UFC. Um, Both fighters here are just kind of not UFC level. Rayani Dos Santos, however, her only two losses are by split decision to Puja Tomar and then Talita Alankar, who just picked up a win over Vanessa Demopoulos. You could argue that Santos won both of those fights. I personally think that she most definitely beat Puja Tomar, um, the Indian chick that just got submitted by Shauna Bannon. Um, Rayani Dos Santos actually isn't like too horrible. She has okay boxing and she does have a 90% takedown defense. It's just her wins overall have been terrible. Like even before the UFC, her best win was someone who was 6-3 to win a belt. Alice Ardelene, on the other hand, I don't know why the fuck this chick's still in the UFC. I don't know why we keep around Alice Ardelene, but we cut a Jairzinho Rosenstrike or Josh Kulabau or someone like that. Like it's just 9-7 as a pro, 0-2 in the UFC. Lost a split decision to Shauna Bannon and lost to Melissa Martinez, who's fucking terrible. Jonathan Martinez's sister. Um, I thought that she maybe could have beat Martinez. She outstruck her by like 20 or something. But overall, Alice is just fucking terrible. She's an okay wrestler, if that's like one thing I could say. I just think that she's going to be a step behind in this fight. She's going to be slow. She's going to be late in the striking exchanges and probably lose a comfortable decision because I don't think she'll really be able to get Dos Santos to the ground. Um, so yeah, wouldn't really bet on this fight too much, but I go Real Dos Santos to win by decision 30-27. We move on to Markel Medeiros taking on Balaji the Zulu Warrior Oki. Medeiros is 28 compared to Oki's 29. Medeiros is 10-1 overall and 2-0 in the UFC compared to Oki's 9-2 and 1-1 in the UFC. Um, Markel on the Dana White Contender Series had a beautiful KO over Isa Isakov with a round one KO with a step in knee on a perfectly timed, like Isakov shoots in for a takedown and it was perfectly timed knee as he's coming in and just sleeps him out fucking cold. Um, and then in Markel's debut, he has a very close fight with Landon Quinones, who also, I think he retired actually from the UFC after having a couple of close fights with Nasrat Haqparast and Markel Medeiros. But that was a very close fight. Markel showed decent fight IQ in that fight. He had good boxing and he the guy is like he's solid. He's pretty good everywhere, to be honest. Not great on the ground, but like he does look pretty slick on the feet in some moments. He had two canceled fights with Evan Elder and Nazem Sadikov. Both of those fights, I think that he would have lost. However, in his last fight, he has a very close split decision with Austin Hubbard. It's just not the best look in my eyes. Damage ended up winning it for Markel because I think he like cut up Hubbard maybe with a bloody nose or on the forehead or something. Um, this is going to be a very close fight because Balaji Oki, on the other hand, here he beat Timmy Kwamba by split decision on his debut, where Timmy Kwamba stepped in on short notice up a weight class. It's just not a great win, right? And then he fights Chris Duncan, where he's piecing up Duncan on the feet, and ends up shooting in for a takedown, and Duncan gets on a guillotine and submits him out cold. But I mean, like we've seen Chris Duncan, you just fucking sub Jordan Buchenik. I think the guy's on like a three-fight submission guillotine win streak or something, or two at least. Um, However, this is going to be a striking fight. Markel's not going to be really shooting for takedowns like that. And if it's anything, it'll be Blazioki implementing his own wrestling because he did have one against Chris Duncan early in their fight. Um, Oki can mix in takedowns and clinch control, and overall, I think the striking is going to be pretty even. So I think that I'm going to lean with the Zulu Warrior to pick up this one and win a 29-28 unanimous decision. Um, Grappling heavy will just, or not heavy, but the grappling will be the difference in this fight, I believe. Moving on to my boy Kurt the Hurt Holloway takes on Jordan the Monkey King Levitt. Um, Kurt's 38 coming into this one. However, I had a personal little interview with Kurt earlier in the week. It'll be coming out whenever I fucking edit it. But the age isn't slowing down, isn't making Kurt slow down. He's in fucking great shape. The weight cuts are easy for him. He like his words is that there's no excuses for fighters to be missing weight, especially when you're in Vegas at the PI. They give you everything you need. You have dietitians, whatever, whatever, whatever. Like there's no excuse to be missing weight. Um, Kurt's an Ultimate Fighter winner. He's 2-2 in his recent stint in the UFC, losing a very close decision in his last fight to Alexander Hernandez. I personally gave Kurt 1-2 in that fight. There was a 30-27 Hernandez. I think that's fucking bullshit. Before then, Kurt beat Kyan Krushenski, a fighting nerd. Um, he's the guy where you see his record, you see his UFC record being 2-6, and it's like, oh, is this guy not very good? But again, his first UFC stint, he went 0-4, and that was like 8 years ago. And he's fighting guys like Prime Ronnie Bosello, Shane Burgos, Thiago Moises. And in the Burgos fight, he drops Shane Burgos, and as he's going for the finish, leaves his arm out there and gets caught in an armbar. It's just a bit unfortunate. Um, but it showed like in the Ultimate Fighter, the guy looked like a fucking killer. You watch this fight against Jason Knight, unreal shit, man. Kurt's very slick everywhere. He's got fucking powerful hands, good pressure, and he does have slick submission skills. His one downfall, I'd say, is that he does give up some takedowns, and you can control him if I think that's like your main way of beating Kurt is just kind of holding him against the ground, like Alexander Hernandez did. Jordan Levitt coming into this one, he's 4-3 in the UFC, 29 years old, so he's significantly younger. His wins are dog shit in the UFC. However, his best one is Trey Ogden in 2022, when Trey Ogden wasn't who he is today or who people like consider him. Not like Ogden's a world beater, but the guy's definitely very technically sound and solid. And that was a split decision as well. His losses are all the grapplers, being Paddy Pimblett by sub, Chase Hooper by sub, and then he lost the decision to Claudio Puelles. Um, Pretty good losses. I mean, Puelles isn't great, but that was a while ago. Um, Jordan himself is a sub merchant. He'll look to take Kurt down and probably end up looking for submissions. But on the feet, it's Kurt all day. And one thing I'll say about Jordan Levitt is he really looks for scrambles on the ground. You saw it in his last fight against Chase Hooper. Right as Chase takes him down very easily, he's instantly looking to scramble. He's looking to scramble and ends up getting caught in a submission. I don't think Levitt's going to be able to control Kurt as well as someone like Alexander Hernandez. And if anything, I don't even think he'll try to. I think that he's just going to try and scramble and end up in submissions. And that's something that Kurt Holloway has been fucking doing for his whole life. And if anything, I would prefer Kurt in the scrambles. So when it comes to the feet, I think that Kurt's going to outland him throughout this fight. And when it comes to the ground, I think that Kurt can be more dominant. So give me Kurt Holloway to win this fight. I'm going to be taking him by late TKO. Moving on to UFC debuter Andreas Gustafsson takes on Trevin Giles. Um, Gustafsson making his UFC debut at 34 years old. Bit late to the party, but the guy's 11-2 overall. He's had two canceled fights before this in the UFC, before he could debut. He broke his fucking neck or something, so he had to pull out of his first fight. Um, but this guy Gustafson's pretty vicious. 8 of his 11 wins come by KO, two by submission, so a very high finisher and finishing rate. Um, he's on a three-fight win streak to get to the UFC, all by KO, including his Dana White Contender Series, where he won by some vicious knees. Like I said, he's a bit older, but he could make a splash with a KO here. Someone like Trevin Giles is a guy who's 32 now and 2-6 in his recent fights on a three-fight skid. He's always been kind of chinny and getting put out in these fights. But they're against high level competition. Like the guy has fought, his last three fights have been Mike Malott, um, Carlos Prates, Gabriel Bonfim. He fought fucking Dricus Duplessis. He fought a few other guys in there. Like he's fighting legit names. And is Andreas Gustafsson gonna be another name like that? He just might, and not because he's some fucking world beater, future champion like Dricus, but it's just Giles isn't getting any younger. The chin's not getting any better. And like the only thing the positive I really have to say about Giles is that he has a good jab. I think in a perfect world for him, he's stepping into this fight on short notice. so it will be taking place at 180 pounds instead of 170. I honestly think that just favors Gustafsson for having more power. Um, and I think for Giles to win this fight, he just has to have a perfect fight and not get hit with some bombs and just keep on popping that jab out there and just keeping at range. But he doesn't even have the reach advantage. Like it's Giles' best win once upon a time was Roman Dolidze. It's a good win, but the guy's 7-7 overall in the UFC. Um, I think Gustafsson probably puts him out early. Give me Gustafsson to win this fight by round one KO. Probably bad too. Moving on to women's MMA again, we have a top five ranked matchup on the prelims between Macy Chasson and Ketlin Vieira. Um, both girls are 33 here. Chasson has the 3-inch height advantage, being 5'11", and a 4-inch reach advantage. She's 8-3 overall in the UFC. She's on a two-fight win streak over Mayra Bueno Silva with a brutal doctor stoppage finish in the second round with a fucked elbow to like I think it was her eyebrow, and just cut her open real bad. And a round one sub over Penny Kianzad. Um, she was subbed by Raquel Pennington a while ago, and up kick to the body by Irene Aldana, and one of the weirdest finishes I've seen in a while. But Macy's like she's actually violent for a chick. She's got great elbows and does have a legit ground game. She has submissions in her own hands. Um, but both girls here look for grappling themselves. And when it comes to the feet, I think I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Macy Chasson landing those damaging strikes. Ketlin Vieira is 14-4 overall, 8-4 in the UFC. She lost her last fight to Kayla Harrison in a number one contenders fight where she was just fed to the wolves, in my opinion. Like, she didn't fucking do anything in that fight. Somehow a judge had her winning round two or something, but it is what it is. Before then, she beat Kianzad by decision and also lost to Pennington, and was also knocked out by Aldana. So both girls here share a very similar resume in terms of opponents they fought. And just in terms of the levels here, I can actually see Macy Chasson getting a finish. You're gonna probably say, "Oh, Kayla Harrison didn't find a finish." Styles make fights. You're gonna fight so much harder probably fighting Kayla Harrison compared to Chasson, and all it takes is a couple of elbows to slice you open, and you're thinking, what the fuck's going on? So I'm going to take Macy Chasson to win this one by round two, ground and pound. We move on to Jafel Filo taking on Alan Nascimento. This is a very hard fight to call. It's a grappler's delight. Filo's 32 compared to Nascimento's 33. 16-3 overall and 2-1 in the UFC for Filo. Um, Filo's a very talented grappler. Both of his wins in the UFC coming by submission over Ode Osborne and Daniel Perez. In his UFC debut, he was subbed in the third round by Mohamed Mokaev. Um, but if you can remember that fight, Filo's the guy that had Mokaev in that fucked knee bar where his knee was popping all sorts of places, snap, crackle, and pop. And Mokaev ended up not tapping, and it was pretty fucked that the guy rallied back and ended up submitting someone like Jafel Filo. Um, Jafel's pretty solid. He's not, no, he's good on the feet. He's good on the feet. He's just like, eh. But his BJJ, like I said, is extremely good. He even beat Amir Albazi in a grappling tournament in December. I think Filo's going to have the better striking in this fight, but could be done up on the ground. Nascimento, he's 20-6 overall, also 2-1 in the UFC, but has been very inactive since his last fight over Carlos Hernandez, which was 2 years ago, where he won by submission. He's had four canceled bouts in this time, most of them by him. He beat Jake Hadley a while ago, and before then, in his debut, lost a split decision to Tagir Ulanbekov, who's Khabib's boy. He's fucking pretty solid. A little fun fact: this doesn't really mean too much, but Nascimento has 19 canceled fights since 2013, and six in the UFC with three fights. However, this guy has 15 submission wins and zero submission losses. He's never been finished. This is an extremely hard fight to call. Just because like we haven't seen Nascimento in so long, and it's like at flyweight you kind of have to be active like that. Like you're gonna end up being a couple steps behind in the speed if you're taking your gears off, and like I don't know. I think I'm gonna go Jafel Filo to win this fight by decision. I think it's gonna play out on the feet a lot more than what people think. Um, And I think that Filo's going to end up just kind of out voluming him on the feet to win a 29-28 decision. Probably drops the first round. Excuse me. We move on to Zachary Reese taking on Dusko Todorovic. This is going to be a good one. Both guys are 31. Excuse me. I don't even need to get technical here. Both guys are 31. Both guys don't have chins. Both guys don't really have a future in the UFC. It's a classic Apex barn burner. It's going to be a fun fight to watch for as long as it lasts. Dusko Todorovic is 3-5 in the UFC. Four of his losses come by round one KO. Somehow his only decision loss is to Gregory Rodriguez. Um, he's on like a three-fight losing streak now. Was brutally slaughtered by Mansoor Abdul Malik in his last one, and his last win was Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja, right 3 years ago. Zachary Reese, on the other hand, was KO'd in his last fight brutally by Azamat Bukoyev, but that guy's actually pretty good. We just saw him fucking chin Ryan Loder. Before then, Zach beat the piss out of Jose Medina, who sucks balls, and he KO'd Julian Marquez in 20 seconds, who sucks even bigger balls. Um, he lost his UFC debut to fucking Cody Brundage by slam KO, where he had the triangle locked in, and then Cody fucking picks him up and slams him on his dome. Reese is 6'4" though. He's fucking tall, middleweight. He's fast. He's got solid BJJ. Like I said though, his chin is just fucking atrocious. And I just think that Dusko's is even worse. And he's just overall not a very good fighter. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna take Zachary Reese to win this one by round one KO, probably in dominant fashion. But again, he could just get fucking chinned by Dusko. That'd just be terrible. But yeah, give me Reese by KO. The people's main event for me here, we have Billy Ray Goff taking on now Ramiz Brahimaj. I think that's how you say it. I also interviewed Billy earlier in the week. Really dope to have a conversation with that guy. He's 26 coming into this one, 9-3 overall, and 1-1 in the UFC. The guy delivers violence every single time I see him fight. In his Dana White Contender Series fight, he got dropped brutally with a head kick about 20 seconds into the fight, but he was with it every single second of it, even when the guy was following up, gets back to his feet and just breaks the guy down with pressure later in the fucking first round. Ends up finishing him, knocking him out. UFC debut, fighting a good Asian kickboxer. Ends up taking a couple big shots. And same thing, just keeps up the pressure, keeps up the pace, ends up landing a dirty liver shot and drops him and puts him out. His next fight is against Trey Waters. So Billy's a 5'10" welterweight. Trey Waters is 6 foot fucking five. So you did what is that, 7 inch fucking height advantage? Um, and I think that Billy won that fight. Everyone can go back and watch it. It was a fight of the year contender. Amazing fight, but Billy ended up outstriking him by like 25, had a takedown in there. I don't really know how you didn't win that fight. Brahimaj, however, is a grappler. 10 of his 11 wins come by submission. His other one by KO, which was in his last fight over Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall's fucking bottom of the barrel dog shit. Don't know how he's in the UFC. Um, this fight originally wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Billy Goff versus Sung Hung Ko, I believe his name is, and it was Oban Elliott versus Ramiz Brahimaj, which would have been a joke of a fight. But then Sung Hung Ko and Oban Elliott both had to pull out, so now they're fighting on the Baku card. So then they just pretty much opponent swapped. Um, I just don't really think Ramiz is going to be able to do too much in this fight. I think someone like Billy's just going to be able to put the hands on him like crazy throughout this fight. Um, a guy like Ramiz, he's lost to Themba Gorimbo by decision. He lost to Court McGee in 2022. He's kind of just sub and bust. His wins are terrible, especially in the UFC, like seriously bad opponents. And I just don't think he has it to beat Billy Goff. So I'm going to be taking Billy Goff to win this fight by round two KO. We move on to the light heavyweights. Dustin Jacoby taking on Bruno Lopez. Fucking hate Bruno Lopez. Um, Jacoby a little bit older now. He's 37 years old, 29-1 draw in the UFC, 8-6-1 in the UFC, sorry. Coming off a round three flatline KO over Vitor Petrino, Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal style, with just the right hand that just fucking turns him into a floppy fish. Um, However, before that win, he was 1-4 with his last win being over Kennedy and Nzechukwu by round one KO. But he had a time where he was, people forget, man, Dustin Jacoby was 7-0 in the UFC at one point. This is a very winnable matchup as well. Jacoby has great hands. Former Glory kickboxer, fought Alex Pereira way back in his day. Um, and someone like Bruno Lopez gets fucking hit like no tomorrow. He's literally a punching bag at some points. Um, He's 14-1, 1-0 in the UFC. He lost his Dana White Contender Series fight to Brenson Hibero by brutal fucking KO. And his debut win was over Magomed Gadzhiesulov, who's now cut from the UFC for being so terrible. I've never seen someone have half a lung fighting in the fucking UFC. Bro's cardio is actually a joke. Um, and Bruno Lopez was gassing out bad too. Um, since then, since his loss to Hibero, however, Lopez, he's bounced back with a three-fight win streak to get to the UFC. The guy's got solid power. He has decent submissions in his game. Has a Kimura win for a title, I believe. And I think that Lopez can win if he makes his fight boring by initiating a lot of cage control and getting to the ground here and there and maybe throwing up a couple submissions. However, I just don't really think that he's going to be able to get a hold of Jacoby as much as he might think. Jacoby's always going to be doing these feints and on the cage and landing these shots against you, moving laterally. Um, and I actually think that I mean Jacoby's last three wins are all by KO, and I think we're going to see another one here. I fucking hate Bruno Lopez. I'd love to see him go to bed. So yeah, give me Dustin Jacoby to win this fight by round two KO. Co-main event. Ludovic Mr. Highlight Klein takes on the gamer Mateus Gamrot. Ludovic will have a 4 year. Um, he's 4 years younger than Gamrot. 30 years old compared to 34. 73 inch reach compared to 71. He's 23 4-1, 7-2-1 in the UFC for Ludovic, and 24-3 and 7-3 in the UFC for Gamrot. Ludovic's last win was over Roosevelt Roberts, who's terrible. Like I've been saying that some of these fighters are terrible, but like, what is Roosevelt Roberts like 3-5 in the UFC on a 5-fight losing streak, 4-fight losing streak? Um, I don't really know why Klein fought Roosevelt. I think he was supposed to fight someone else, but I'm not. Was it Malta? I'm not sure. He was supposed to fight someone else. It was short notice. However, his run before that was pretty impressive. He beat the piss out of Thiago Moises. He had two knockdowns in there. He KO'd AJ Cunningham brutally. He beat the shit out of Ignacio Bahamundes. He beat up Mason Jones, the guy that just beat Jeremy Stevens. The guy's extremely well rounded. He has an amazing left high kick. He mixes in his takedowns very well, and he has a 91% takedown defense. This is a hard fight for Gamera and a very random fight for him to be taking. He's ranked 7 in lightweight division compared to Ludovic Klein, who's not even fucking ranked. And he's the best ranked guy, unranked guy, in my opinion. If this was 5 rounds, I'd lean a lot more towards Gamera, but 3 allows Klein to have that early chance of dropping Gamera and stealing these early rounds because Gamrot's been dropped in like his last, besides the Fiziev injury fight, he's been dropped in like his last 4 or 5 fights. He got dropped by Dan Hooker. He got dropped by Beneil Dariush. He got dropped by RDA. He got dropped by Jalen Turner. He got dropped by Arman Sarugian. Um, like yeah, he's winning some of these fights, but like and he should have beat Dan Hooker. Don't think I'm getting that twisted, but he did get dropped and he was looking in a world of trouble. He's a very dominant grappler, however. His pressure is pretty fucked. But Ludovic's so good at stuffing these takedowns. And on the feet, I think that Ludovic's much better. I think that Gamrot's pretty underrated on the feet, but I don't think he's better than Ludovic Klein. Um, and throughout this fight, I just see Ludovic stuffing the takedowns that he needs to, and if it goes to the ground, scrambling well, and maybe even threatening his own takedowns. Um, so I'm gonna take some new blood in the lightweight division and Ludovic Klein to win this fight by decision. Probably a 29-28 and ends up or maybe even a 29-27 because he 10-8s him in the first round, ends up dropping him pretty bad. On to our main event, we have Erin Blanchfield versus MAYCEE Barber. Blanchfield 26, Barber 27. Blanche is 7-1 in the UFC. Barber's 9-2. In Erin's last fight, she beat Rose Namajunas in a close decision. Before then, she was kind of checked a little bit by Manon Fiorot. Um, Again, we just saw how good Fiorot was, though, against Shevchenko. But Blanchfield had a very impressive win over Talia Santos and even finished Jessica Andrade. Erin's an in-your-face grappler with some scrappy hands. She seems to really struggle, however, when she can't get the takedown because her hands are pretty dog shit. She just kind of Juliana Pena's you up against the fucking fence, and then we'll shoot for a double leg. Um, However, Barber gives up a shit ton of takedowns. Like she gave up, I think, 5 takedowns to fucking Andrea Lee a couple fights ago. Andrea Lee on like a 5 or 6 fight losing streak, cut from the UFC now. It's just like that's not a good look, obviously. Um, And if this hits the mat, I just think that it could be a wrap. MAYCEE Barber in her last one beat Caitlin Chookagian in a boring decision. Before that, had a pretty impressive finish over just because she finished Amanda Hebos by TKO. That's kind of impressive in my opinion. But then had that split decision with Andrea Lee where she gave up 5 takedowns, like I said. Barber's got really good power, solid striking. However, she leaves her chin up in fucking Narnia. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of striking in this fight. I think she's going to get worked on the ground quite a bit, worked on the cage, and in the later rounds, probably end up getting finished on the mat. For an official pick, I'm going to take ERIN Blanchfield to win by round 3 submission. And yeah, I don't really see how MAYCEE Barber can step all the takedowns for 25 minutes and end up not really getting either subbed or just completely dominated for the whole fight. So yeah, and that'll do it for my UFC. I mean, Vegas fucking whatever. Blanchfield versus Barber full card predictions. Hope you enjoyed and see you next week.